Welcome to the broadcast, my dear old fruits, and especially to the 1,000 of you who clicked the subscribe button over the past couple of days since my previous show, where I spilled many beans, insider secrets and whispers that now feel rather relevant to what we have been hearing over the last 24 hours, because now you understand. I would hope you understand why I specifically mentioned property when I revealed to you 2 days ago that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, or the Duke and Duchess of something or other, I don't know what the hell that is, maybe you can tell me, nonsense on stilts I should imagine, they had been cozying up to Uncle Charlie, Earl Spencer, for advice, wise counsel, I told you, in matters involving property. They were my words. The Sussexes did not give His Majesty the courtesy of any meaningful notice of the plan to relocate, despite what you may be hearing from many quarters and from wickedly unkind, I've got to tell you, and uninformed critics of the King, of which there are thousands that have developed, especially over the past year, I've noticed, for such a warm-hearted, wonderful man who is flawed in many ways, but is a superb gentleman in others. I'm afraid that the King was not in on any sort of cunning plan to reintroduce the Harkles, and he still isn't in on any cunning plan, any of the kind I've got to tell you. In fact, he's done everything possible to keep them at arm's length, which has been a very difficult task to do, and he's had to keep them at loving distance for 6 years. Do you understand this? All during the time that he began his reign and his late mother died. He cannot block Harry from moving here, even if he wanted to, if he tried to. He's a king, he is not a dictator, as part of an absolute monarchy. Do you understand the difference between a constitutional monarchy and an absolute regime? The king does not have that sort of power. Harry will do what he wants to do and go where he wants to go, and be dashed with it. But the Sussexes did not give His Majesty the courtesy of any meaningful notice of this plan. Charles is no pushover. He's not a doormat, he's not weak. Quite the opposite, in fact. But you have got to bear in mind, my dear critics, and I'm not addressing all my basket here, so you understand, my dear, certain voices that emerge. The King has got a healthy ego of his own, as well as Harry, but he is also just a few months shy of 78 years old. And he's not in the rudest of health, as we all know. So all things must be taken into consideration. But he ain't weak. He ain't weak. Consider, he has never once capitulated in any meaningful way to all of their, in my opinion, bribes, emotional blackmail, what some might consider threats over the last 6 years, all the betrayals, the withholding of family. Not once. It was an entirely elegant handling of the situation. And this isn't some presidential drama, whether it's the Trumps or the Bidens, throwing all kinds of things into the public melee and the mix. This is the royal spirit that the King is channeling. And when the Sussexes realised that the King was not going to indulge all of their demands, they took great delight in plotting this ambush and blindsiding their Majesties. However, I caveat that by saying that the fact of the move back here to the kingdom was not a surprise at all to the King or their Majesties. The actual fact that it was going to happen. The detail and the timing of it was, in fact, a surprise this weekend. But the fact that it was actually going to happen was not a great shock at all to them, because I myself told you many, many times via my own whisperers and those who know Harry, I told you well into last year, I can't remember exactly when, I know it was last year, but probably going back quite a long time before that Harry had been desperately missing life in the kingdom. Desperately, desperately missing it, and I can't get it over to you how much. I also revealed to you that he loathes living in California. That love affair wore off extremely quickly with Montecito. I mean, okay, it's a beautiful garden, but I mean, oh great, the grass is green, the flowers are growing, the honey tastes nice, the birds are singing. How many times can you put up with all of that in that sort of prison, He loathes living in California. He's stuck in an enclave with Oprah Winfrey. And, she's fine as well if you can turn her on and turn her off on the television set. Do you understand, darling? But he's miles away from a bit of real life, and he likes a bit of rough and tumble, as you know, naked billiards and all the rest of it. So he's learnt a rude lesson, because he prattled on and on about the boring confines of the walls of Windsor Castle and the Windsor estate. Now he knows that it was not so dull, my dear. Compared to what? Compared to the rest of the peasants' and paupers' lives out there, it really wasn't that bad for you, darling. And you were well located, you were right next to Europe with all its glories, and of course in Blighty, best country in the whole wide world, my dear. The kingdom is full of rich variety. This is the thing about England, my dear, and you'll know it if you've been here and toured the kingdom. Whether it's urban or rural life that you're drawn to, or all in between. And we have seasons. We happen to have had an extremely long and intense summer season this year, my dear, so it's put me a little bit in mind of Montecito, but that's not always the way. We're just about to turn into autumn, of course, but we have the seasons. And you know, you have this pink pickleball prince who's sick of sun cream and white bits, which he has to parade about, as is Lily White Lilibet. You know, she's as white as snow, isn't she? The young prince and princess of colour, the colour blue. So white they're blue. And from blue blood to red neck. There is a reason, by the way, that rednecks often look a little bit like a blister, don't they, my darling, the rednecks of America? It's because they are not suited to the climate. They didn't evolve from the earth of that side of the world. They're not made for the sunny climate, and Harry certainly isn't. Ginger Dandelion affair. No, my dear. So he's been angling away with the king for over a year, perhaps 2 or 3 years, to get this all underway. It's no great shock to the king, but he was ignorant of the precise facts of the move. So there's no lying there coming from the briefing from Buckingham Palace. And the reason it was brought into discussions is under the guise of the children's education. Oh, it's so important that they know the English way and the cultures of our land. This is what was brought into the mix. And this has been the talk of the town for 2 or 3 years, which I have told you repeatedly in the past, that this is what Harry's worry was, that this is what he was saying, and that there was a real danger that he wanted to return here. Do you understand? So, for the observant among you, now it becomes exactly clear why I chose to return to my kingdom, my fruit basket, this very broadcast, after over half a year in absentia, on the very eve of the announcement. Do you notice the timing? Do you see how the circle is squared? Yes, I appeared on the eve of this announcement after such a long time away. Well, isn't that a coincidence? They don't tell me that I'm like Mary Poppins for nothing, my dear. Yes, I'm practically perfect in every way, and that's one of the reasons. But the second is that I come and go with an umbrella on the wind at the most opportune timing, just when the world needs me, do you understand, and when they need to be put in their place. Various outlets were briefed and embargoed last night because the Telegraph claimed the scoop via Vicky Ward, and the Sun claimed the scoop, which emerged at the same time, and various outlets. So that points to evidence of an embargoed piece that has been proffered, but as I see, we shall see what emerges over the next couple of weeks, what truth and what lies are behind it. But if you look behind the comedic veneer of this broadcast and you use the breadcrumbs that I set out before you, then you will be able to bake a loaf and understand what's really going on, my dears. And within a matter of days, if this whole entire debacle is not a ruse, then the relocation will be complete. And although the very thought of the traitor and the race baiter setting tiptoe and settling their bony arses down in my country is deeply unsettling and makes my teeth itch, dear basketeers, we can at least revel in the fact that this is a deep humiliation. A deep humiliation for Harry in particular, but also for old Miss Sparkle, isn't it? Old Granny Sparkle. Oh, they are so humiliated. And it signals total failure on their part for this many-year project. Total failure. So let that sink in. It's the ultimate U-turn. And they may be hanging on to their homes in Montecito in Portugal while they move here, dipping their toes across the pond, For the time being, the rental market in Montecito is quite buoyant from what I hear. Not sure if Doria can afford it, but I'm sure she has no trouble getting her paws on the readies, does she? But this has not been the runaway success that they envisioned, has it, my dears? It truly hasn't. This adventure, which is about to begin a new adventure for us all. This is the funny thing. The gold rush that they sought in their America, their American dream has become a nightmare, and their brand is trashed and trounced. Make no mistake about it, my dear. It only attracts the attention of the mentally ill. Have you noticed? And I have some sympathy for the mentally ill, but there are limits. To fail in life, as they have, is the root of success, you know. When I talk about failure generally. Any successful person, 9 out of 10 of them will tell you that their whole success emerged from many, 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 many deep failings. So there's no shame in failing. There's pride in it. Great pride. You tried. Do you understand? Many of my own efforts in many arenas of my life have failed and flopped a great deal more than I've known successes. So I know what it feels like, and I don't wish it upon anybody at all, including them. But when vying for success as they did while gaslighting their family, betraying everybody, with serious consequences across the Commonwealth, the late Queen's beloved Commonwealth that she treasured so much in the last days of her life and the late Philip's life, then there is a karmic trick for which must be atoned. Do you understand? It is confirmed that Harry and Meghan continue as non-working royals. The home is to be a non-royal residence, and they say they're not disclosing the location for privacy. You couldn't make it up, could you? The privacy tour continues. What a complete joke. I mean, if there's one thing that's going to rouse the attentions of the press, it's telling them that they want privacy, isn't it, my dear, as they found out themselves. Well, I'm not into doxing. I think doxing is a vile business, so I'm certainly not going to be disclosing the rumours that I'm hearing about where they're going to be ending up. But there's no harm in saying that amidst all the other rumours of them settling perhaps around the Cotswolds area, I've also heard talk about them being based in London itself, and various different locations are being thrown into the mix. But my understanding is that Earl Spencer was certainly approached for guidance in the matter, not just on the recent trip, but previous to that, of course. And not only guidance, but to hear about various properties that he knows of. And I'm not saying that any of them came to fruitfulness or conclusion, but there was a lot of talk, a lot of chatter, and being associated with the Earl Spencer's estate and governance is seductive in a certain way, because he understands the security aspect of their plight. When some of these ideas were being bandied around, it was very attractive to Meghan, you see, because she sees herself as the mould of Diana. Next year it's 30 years since Diana's death. She wants to pick up the baton, doesn't she, and run with that all around the island, concealing Diana's body. So she's relaying about as if she's at the school run, but both of them, to be quite honest with you, prefer the idea of something which has less old school grandeur about it. Although they still enjoy period properties, that still appeals to them, but with a modern twist all the time. And certainly not anything as frumpy and fusty as Not Cot or Frogmore. But I noticed that even the BBC, less than 24 hours after I brought Altrip into the conversation in my previous show, less than 24 hours they were at it, they were speculating about property in the proximity to the Spencer estate, do you see? Because even if that doesn't happen, and there is no association with the Altrip estate, the fact of the matter is that discussions have been ongoing involving all of those matters, you see, and also the legacy for the young prince and princess and their future accommodations under great uncle's stewardship, perhaps, or indeed the 10th Earl Spencer's. Of course, the huge irony of this farce involving this vote farce is, of course, that the Harkles claimed that they couldn't cope with the infringement on their private life, or from the media. Well, thus followed 6 years of the most intense feeding frenzy that has been witnessed in modern times by the press, social media, commentators, YouTubers. It's been manna from heaven. Manna from heaven. And the bread's been buttered. Many, many, many hundreds of millions and more have been made. And Harry has been under more scrutiny while holed away in their American shack than he was ever under, even in his most scandalous eras in the kingdom, at Kensington Palace or at Windsor. You couldn't make it up, could you? This is the way the cookie crumbled. And all the while, they fed that frenzy in the most vulgar, opportunistic, money-grubbing style of facility. We all saw it. And that has been their idea of a private life. As private citizens, I ask you. But as much as they have remained under public gaze, the children, just as in a fairy tale most grim, the children, the young prince and princess, sequestered, cloistered. Yes, it's been a loving, happy existence for them in Montecito, despite whatever you see or hear. I know, because I'm privy to people who know them and see them and are around them. They have a joy-filled life, but it's been a half-life. And especially as they progress through the years, that would become even more apparent if they were to be kept sequestered there. It's been a veiled life, far removed from their original destiny. Let's not forget they are great-grandchildren of the late Elizabeth II. That still means something to many people, but their destiny was amputated by their own father and their mother. Harry is petrified of losing the royal association. This is what it boils down to, especially when Charles III is living on borrowed time as he is, and Big Willie V is coming up the rear. William and Catherine are all that is good and true and fair and decent. It really is like a Grimm's fairy tale, isn't it, my dear? With the goodies and then the baddies in the form of the Harkles. With Harry, who in his younger years, some say still, besotted with Kate, absolutely besotted with his darling sister-in-law, Kate. Oh, how he loved the gal, and fancied the gal, but William got her first, and Harry could never have had her anyway. And then, of course, Meghan, jealous of Catherine, jealous of Katie, and totally in lust with Big Willie. Oh, how she adores William, but never got him. Never got him. If Meghan had been a little more sparkling and not so dull, not so homely, then perhaps she would have made a marvellous Morello Carrington Colby Dexter to Catherine's Crystal. But that didn't happen. They want to be here to muscle their kids into palaces and into the public consciousness as bona fide royals, and into the king's affection, of course, and also use them as a human shield. And I'm here to tell you, all the word that I'm receiving is that Harry has been miserable over in Montecito. Remember, it's coming up to the 7-year itch, isn't it? They've been longer together than that, of course, and married longer, but 6 years, I think, since their departure, coming up to 7. I always warned you of that 7-year itch, my darling. Like a bad case of gonorrhea. The honeymoon's over, and Meghan's hive is drying up. She's become one of her rescue chickens. That's exactly what she is. She's a rescued chicken, and Harry wants out of the Battery Farm and into the free range, doesn't he? But the goose is cooked, and their public image, their brand, is in tatters. Absolute tatters. Isn't it sad? Isn't it a shame? But their public brand is messy, immature, and precocious brats. Their children will be enrolling in a British school in September, so we're told, in just a couple of weeks. Oh, fun, 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 fun. They can join the Wales children, can't they? In fact, maybe they are. Some are saying that they'll be setting up shop very close to Highgrove, so that they're nearby the king's favourite residence at all times. But it will be sensible for Harry to move the children to the kingdom in the prospect of a potential separation or a divorce, if things don't go entirely to the romantic plan over the next few years, won't it, my dear? Because, of course, Meg couldn't stand being here. It was all too much for her, all terrible. They swore across their heart and hoped to die they'd never come back to racist old Blighty. But over they'd trot. But indeed, a large part of Harry's misery, apart from dealing with her all the time, and actually he doesn't mind that, he thrives off of her hysterics and hysteria and histrionics, just like Mummy, you know, this kind of thing. But the children have actually grown up to be a delight so far, an utter delight, and they're the apples of his eye, but they are American children. They have grown up to be American. And we all love our American naughty cousins very much. Many Americans I adore, so I don't say it to disparage in any way, shape or form. But they've got no comprehension of the British way. Do you understand the British manner? They are not surrounded by the British humour, which is enormous and something that Harry would greatly miss and love to imbue and inject into his children's experience, you see. Along with our class system, actually. I know they're all for equitable levelling, classless sort of society. And there is a dramatically different landscape here to what there was 70 years ago when it comes to class, but the remaining structure is in fact a structure that many, many, many kingdomers find a comfort in. There's something to be said for knowing one's place, and it might sound glib or improbable, but you will often find that using them as archetypes, the master and the servant can live very happily together and attain an equal sort of bliss and accept their fate and their position in the hierarchy, while knowing and understanding, this is a wonderful thing about modern life, modern society, while understanding that the rungs of the ladder, instead of pointing in a heavenwards direction towards the upper classes and aristocracy, now they can be turned completely sideways and on their head. Completely sideways, so that where you come from is not an obstacle, where you emerge from, you see. And in this post-war society, there is just as much opportunity, or you can find the opportunity. If you're entrepreneurial and you've got a bit of savvy about you, my dear, you can find your way to the top. And class is no guarantee or indicator of success. But you have to embrace where one stands at each moment of the journey. Do you understand? Then you can get there, my dear. But Harry's sense of status and class and hierarchy, and that of his children's, their Royal Highnesses Archie and has been confused, has been ruptured and upended. You could say it's been dismantled while trying to maintain it at the same time. So it's all been a comedy of errors and a theatre of the absolutely absurd. But he wants them to have a British education. This is the thing, you see, and this is the excuse he's using. It's true, but he's also using it as the excuse. Oh, well, even if I wanted to stay in America with the wife, for the kids need to know about their history and their legacy. See grandpa and all this tosh. He wants his children to be educated in Britain. British education is an envy of the world, or at least was, until universities such as the Oxbridge kind began employing any old Charlie that ticked the box of DEI as professors and experts in their craft. This is what I'm talking about and what I've been talking about for years, the dumbing down of society. But it's no secret that the Harkles, although they enjoy this tempestuous, passionate bent to the character of their relationship, it's fractious and has been very fractious over this talk, this restlessness that Harry has of needing to get back here and do something constructive with his time and his life, Meghan has been shunned by the elite of America. In the main, there are some brazen characters out there, some brazen figures that have given her house room. Then there's the likes of Jeff and Laura and all those characters. They'll put up with them for 5 minutes, shuffle around a party with them, but most of them don't want true engagement and definitely don't want public association with them. It's like, what's that plant that keeps coming up in all the house surveys throughout the kingdom, like a Virginia creeper kind of thing? Japanese knotweed. The Harkles are like Japanese knotweed to anybody in society. Don't tangle yourself up in a Harkle. They won't let go, and you won't pass a survey. No matter how good our cookies taste. Make no mistake, both of them are absolutely furious that the royal family have not been begging them to return to the kingdom years ago. This is what they really, really thought was going to happen. Isn't it astonishing? This is what the entire exercise for, uprooting everything, moving overseas, was to try and impress the king and get him to beg them to return. What a damp squib that's been. They thought that they were going to have this huge court case win. That is what Harry thought it was actually going to be, the coup de grace. But that prospect began to emerge as becoming less and less and less likely since last year, until the moment that Harry lost the court case just last month. So all of these shenanigans appeared because Harry adopted the attitude, well, if you won't allow us to do the things that we want to do our way, then we will make you do it. We will make you allow us. And in response, he got tumbleweed. Tumbleweed! And silence from the royal family, an elegant silence. Do you understand? That's strength. It's not weakness. That is strength from the royal family and from the king. And from the Waleses. Oh, William and Catherine have played a blinder here. Bye, they say. You're not going to emotionally blackmail us. And it doesn't matter what aspersions you throw around. No one's going to believe them about Catherine, my darling wife, and about me. They're not going to believe them. So bye. Ta-ra! And it seems that Harry is in total denial about the embarrassment, about the cringe-inducing mess that he's created for himself. And here he is, marauding around America, toddling about hours after the announcement, bold as brass, pleased as punch, fuzzy as a peach. Has Meghan not introduced the boy to the concept of a buzz cut? Harry, wake up! Haven't you heard of a buzz cut? I'm sure that Meghan gives her own carpet a trim from time to time, perish the thought. The bushes of California need a pruning, so ask to borrow her clippers. And isn't it a coincidence? Every macabre announcement that they come out with is always shrouded in a worthy cause for the timing of it, isn't it? Well, I suppose they want to control the narrative. If there's scandalous news coming out, control the narrative, shroud it in worthy causes and charity. Well, how is that strategy working out? The confessions of a female founder seem to be that she's floundering and flopping all over the place. So she might as well start confessing that it's been an enormous failure, this expedition into female founding. The only thing she's found out is that she's not wanted in America, they're not wanted in England, but they have no other option other than to elope to their beloved Botswana. Why don't they go there? This is where Harry said he wants to spend all his time, become African, and join her in becoming 43% Nigerian. Bugger off to Botswana. The other reason for this move is that both of them need and feed off of drama and histrionics, don't they, my dear? He can't stand still for 5 minutes. I'm telling you that. Especially since he ostensibly, apparently gave up the booze and fags and God knows what else that I won't mention on here. The unmentionables. Can't keep still for 5 minutes. ADD, ADHD, ABCDGD, all the A's. Lucy. He's got all the A's, darling. Can't keep still. And this is how they get into trouble all the time, but this is also fun for them. It's fun for them, thinking up what can we do now? How can we throw another spanner in the works of fire and the ointment, get things going? Yeah, let's move back to England. Yeah, let's go trounce the king, trounce Willie. You know, so it's more for them to orchestrate something to occupy their minds, because they just can't sit there in meditative silence and enjoy life. They have to be in the mix. Stirring, new surroundings, new people. So that's what they'll get in Blighty, isn't it, for 5 minutes, until they're bored again and then throw something else into the mix. He looks a lot like the king in this photograph, by the way. Can you see in the expression there? I can completely see the echoes and the shadows of His Majesty. See, not James Hewitt, nothing to do with James Hewitt. He has the king's genes, unfortunately. Let's just be grateful that he's not in William's position. But it's unmistakable. Now, do you remember in May 2025, so that's over a year, 4 months ago, he said in an interview, I can't see a world in which I would be bringing my wife and children back to the kingdom at this point. The things that they're going to miss is, well, everything. I love my country. I always have done, despite what some people in that country have done. So I miss the UK, parts of the UK. Of course I do. And I think it's really sad that I won't be able to show my children my homeland. So what changed your mind, Harry? Nobody's forcing you to return. But of course they're going to tell us that they're straddling different worlds. They're globalists. So they're not just becoming English again. They're going to be everywhere, totally ubiquitous. Online, in the cloud, in the ether. Meghan's going to be overseeing her operation from the UK now. She'll be working from home, flogging her sensi, or whatever it is she does. And, you know, this even made the Prime Minister's comments today. Andy Burnley was asked about it, and he refuses to be drawn on the matter of their security. He was asked about the security detail and whether or not the taxpayer will be responsible for this financially. And he said, this is a private matter. It's a matter for Harry and for Meghan. Well, at least he didn't call them the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. For Harry and Meghan, we wish them well in the move they're making. The King has, if what we're told is true, been clear that they will remain private individuals and non-working royals. Well, one thing we know for sure, don't we, my basketeers, is that they also remain complete and utter nincompoops, who are attention-seeking, money-grubbing, immature in the midlife season, behaving like 12-year-olds, and I don't mean to disparage 12-year-olds, but these tantrum-throwing, virtue-signalling viceroys are nothing but trouble. And so let's brace ourselves, my dear, because the roller coaster is about to take a dive. Yes, the Harkles are returning to the kingdom. Stay fruity, always on royal duty, and I'll see you in the next broadcast. Ta-ra and toodle-pip.